The United Nations Security Council is working to put forth a resolution to pause the war so that humanitarian aid can get into Gaza. A vote scheduled for Monday was pushed back until today with hopes of getting the United States on board after it vetoed an earlier call for a ceasefire. Let's bring in White House correspondent Haley Bull. She joins us live now from Washington. Haley, what do we know about where efforts stand to release hostages?
Well, Jay, President Biden saying today that they're not expecting it at this point, but they are pushing for this. The White House National Security Council calling these serious discussions and negotiations. Now, Hamas officials reportedly in Egypt today amid the effort to push for another pause to allow for the release of the remaining hostages. That follows the discussions between Israel, the United States, and Qatar earlier this week, but the Associated Press reporting that they are still far from an agreement. United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken today said the problem remains Hamas, and the question is whether they are willing. Previously, Hamas was blamed for the breakdown in the initial pause that allowed for the release of more than 100 hostages and has tied the release of hostages to a ceasefire. Now, for its part, Israel has said it's ready for a pause to allow the release of hostages. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meeting with some of the family members of those held this week. Morning Rush spoke to one of those fathers. Listen.
We reminded him, the buck stops here. This happened on his shift. And he is ultimately the one responsible to get hostages, people living in agricultural villages, what we call kibbutz, that were taken in their pajamas in the morning, or people like my son that were protecting the legitimate borders of the state of Israel, and they disappeared. And it's his obligation. Again, we're not the strategists. I can't comment on what is the price and what is the way to do about it. But I do know that we cannot allow for another ceasefire to happen with less than all of the hostages coming out.
And Jay, at the same time, as Israel has indicated an openness for another pause, Netanyahu once more today vowing to continue their goal of eliminating Hamas.
Yeah, Haley, and all the while the U.S. is maintaining that Israel needs to wind down its military operations in Gaza. Where do the efforts stand now to mitigate civilian harm?
The United States has walked a tightrope, really, between supporting Israel's defense and stressing that they need to do everything they can to reduce civilian casualties. Now, amid the mounting civilian toll, we have seen the administration push for a transition to a lower intensity phase of fighting, not saying don't fight, but they want to see more narrow, tailored operations that are intelligence driven. Secretary of State Antony Blinken underscoring that today, but also reaffirming the United States support for Israel's defense. Listen.
What is striking to me is that even as, again, we hear many countries urging the end to this conflict, which we would all like to see, I hear virtually no one saying, demanding of Hamas that it stop hiding behind civilians, that it lay down its arms, that it surrender. This is over tomorrow if Hamas does that. This would have been over a month ago, 6 weeks ago, if Hamas had done that. And how can it be that there are no demands made of the aggressor and only demands made of the victim?
And Jay, President Biden this afternoon indicating that those conversations with partners on what Gaza looks like after this in the next phase of the war in Gaza continue.
Jay. Haley Bull reporting for us live from the White House. Thank you, Haley.